Today, we are going to unravel a story that's, believe it or not, 7,000 years old. It's an incredible journey that connects ancient clay stamps to, well, probably the t-shirt you're wearing right now. So let's dive into the amazing history of how we put patterns on cloth, from clay all the way to code. So, what is the connection? It sounds kind of like a riddle, right? But the answer is actually pretty simple. Both that ancient tomb and your favorite t-shirt are just different chapters in the same long, fascinating story of our deep-seated need to decorate the world around us. Take a look at this. On the left, you've got an ancient piece of fabric, all handcrafted using a technique called resist dyeing. And on the right, a super modern design, printed with pinpoint digital precision. The journey between these two images is an incredible tale of global trade, revolutionary tech, and our timeless desire to just make things beautiful. So here's our roadmap. We're going to trace this story through 5 key moments. We'll start at the very beginning with ancient origins, then get swept up in the chintz craze, see the rise of an iconic French fabric, power through the Industrial Revolution, and finally land on the digital frontier. Okay, so let's start where all good stories do, right at the very beginning. Because this need to decorate our world, it isn't some modern thing. Nope, it's an instinct that's pretty much as old as civilization itself. So the groundwork for all of this was laid thousands of years ago. You had linen popping up in Egypt, cotton being grown in both India and Peru, and of course, that legendary silk being perfected in China. But the real breakthrough moment, at least for our story, happens around 2000 BC in Peru. This is where we see the very first evidence of true textile printing. Artisans using these carved clay cylinders to actually roll repeating patterns onto cloth. So cool. You know, one of the oldest ways to create patterns is also honestly one of the most clever. It's called resist dyeing. The whole idea is simple. If you don't want a part of the fabric to get colored, you just protect it by putting on wax or a paste or even just tying thread really, really tight. You create a barrier, a resist, that the dye just can't get through. And this right here, it's a perfect example. What you're looking at is called bandhani, a traditional tie-dye from India. Just try to imagine the patience this took. Every single one of those little white dots was made by someone painstakingly tying a thread around a tiny pinch of fabric before it ever went into the dye. It's an ancient craft that goes all the way back to at least the 6th century. Just amazing. All right, let's jump forward in time. We're heading to an era where the incredible textile arts of the East smashed right into the booming markets of the West, and it sparked what you could only call a fashion firestorm. Okay, picture this. It's the 1600s. European traders are coming back from India with this absolute treasure, these brightly colored, beautifully patterned cottons called chintz. Now remember, Europe at the time was all heavy wools and kind of drab linens. So these lightweight, vibrant fabrics, they were a total revolution. They were exotic, they were gorgeous, and pretty soon, absolutely everyone wanted them. And the impact? It was absolutely staggering. The demand for Indian chintz got so huge that it actually started to hurt Europe's own local textile businesses. I mean, let that sink in. These handmade imports were so popular they were beating Europe's own early machine-made fabrics. That's how big this was. So how on earth do they make these masterpieces? Well, it was a process that took incredible skill. First, artists would hand-carve these super intricate designs into wooden blocks. Then, they'd apply something called a mordant. That's a special metallic salt paste that was basically the secret sauce to making the natural dyes permanent. And finally, with just immense precision, they'd press that block onto the cloth, section by section by section. And the results? I mean, just look at them. Absolutely stunning. To get a multicolored design like this one, the printer needed a totally separate, perfectly lined up block for every single color. It was slow, it was tough work, but it created fabrics with a beauty and complexity that nobody else could touch at the time. So this whole chintz craze really put European makers in a tough spot. They knew they had to step up their game, not just copy what was coming from India. And all that pressure sparked a new wave of innovation, leading to a truly distinct European style, with France leading the charge. Okay, 1759. This year, it's a big one. A factory gets started in a tiny village called Jouy, just outside of Paris, by an entrepreneur named Christophe Philippe Oberkamp. And it's right here that one of the most famous and lasting styles in textile history is about to be born. And that style was toile de Jouy, which literally just means cloth from Jouy. And it was a total pivot from the colorful florals of India.
Instead, Toile de Jouy had these incredibly detailed, scenic patterns. Romantic picnics, charming country life, all printed in just one color on a light background. It became the absolute definition of European elegance.
By this point, the world was hungry for patterned fabric, absolutely insatiable. But there was a big problem. Both Indian hand blocking and French printing were just slow. The world wanted more, and it wanted it faster, so the stage was set for a huge technological leap, all driven by one thing: the need for speed.
The problem was clear as day. Printing by hand one block at a time was a serious bottleneck. The solution, which came along in 1785, was mechanized roller printing. And this one invention was about to change absolutely everything. So you had two major technologies emerge. On one side, you had roller printing. It used these engraved copper cylinders to print fabric continuously. It was crazy fast for big jobs and made super sharp, precise lines, but the setup costs were massive. Then, a new player entered the game: screen printing. It was a little slower, yeah, but the screens were way cheaper and faster to make, and it was amazing for creating these rich, saturated colors. For about 100 years, these two methods pretty much ruled the industry. When you get right down to it, screen printing is really just a fancy stencil. You're pushing ink through the open parts of a mesh screen with a squeegee to create your design. And even when machines started to automate it, that core idea made it a super versatile and affordable way to get beautiful patterns onto millions of yards of fabric. And that brings us all the way to today, and to maybe the biggest revolution since that first roller was invented: the leap from the machine to the microchip. Honestly, the easiest way to think about it is like your printer at home, but for fabric. Digital printing just takes a design file from a computer and prints it right onto the cloth. All of a sudden, there are no screens to make, no giant, heavy rollers to engrave. It's a pure, direct line from a digital idea to a physical thing. I mean, this just changed the game completely. Suddenly, designers could use unlimited colors, even photographic detail. Small, custom print jobs became affordable, which also meant a lot less waste. And the turnaround time, it went from weeks down to a few hours. It just unlocked a whole new world of creativity. So when you just step back and look at the whole thing, the journey is just incredible. We went from a simple clay roller in ancient Peru to the masterful hands of Indian block printers, to the industrial might of copper rollers, and finally, to the infinite precision of digital code. It's really a 7,000-year story of technology trying its best to keep up with human creativity. But all this progress leaves us with a really interesting question. In a world where technology lets us print literally anything we can possibly imagine, what is it that makes a pattern truly timeless? What makes a design stick with us? Maybe the answer isn't in the newest technology at all, but in that same human creativity that got this whole journey started 7,000 years ago.